show here on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you're watching on the main channel, be sure to check out the Best Bets channel as well. You can find that in the description down below. Check that out. We are the Three-Man Weave. This show is presented by BetRivers. I'm Jim Root. I've got Kai McEwen, Matt Cox on either side of me, whatever one. I'm sure they're there. But fellas, we had a big day of basketball yesterday, almost 80 games. I know you were hooping last night, Kai, yourself. You had some rec league playoffs.
We did.
Did you take anything away from the games that were played in the collegiate level?
Jim, my takeaway is UNC is terrible. They got the talent, but boy, are they poorly coached. And we talked about this. I ranted about this on our podcast last night. Hubert Davis is not a good coach. He allows Caleb Love to do whatever he wants. That's a bad strategy. His play calling, Matthew, is terrible. I could go on and on. I won't really beat a dead horse here, but summary, UNC's in trouble. Hubert Davis, you're on the fence, man, for me.
Yeah, the ACC is looking pretty weird right now. Virginia fans got to be licking their chops, thinking they're going to cruise to another ACC regular season title. Yawn. Jim, for me, no profound takeaways. I think home court sort of sustained last night. We talked about how the home court value has been pretty strong. A lot of these non-conference games, Notre Dame rode that wave, Miami rode that wave, Indiana rode that wave, Duke rode that wave, and Butler. I think that's 5 examples of the cross-conference tilt. So respect home court and just tread lightly if you're looking to back a road dog, especially in these like big high marquee cross-conference challenges.
That would be a great transition into our first game, Matt, but I'm not going to go there yet. To build off your point, yesterday, this is info coming from Covers. Home teams were 47-23 against the spread with one push. 47-23. Favorites 49-21. So pretty good day for favorites, home teams. I wouldn't necessarily say that's going to just continue going forward, but keep an eye on it. Like if the home teams continue to rock, maybe there's something to all these teams coming back from the MTE. They're a little exhausted. It's good to be home instead of the road team. That might be something for future years we should probably at least be aware of.
Yeah, archive.
Shout out to the ACC for winning the ACC Big Ten Challenge. That was impressive. And man, shout out to New Mexico. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Win on the road at St. Mary's. That team looks all the way legit. Somebody, I think, messaged me. They're like, maybe they're this year's Wyoming, where they just kind of come out of nowhere and get an at-large bid. It's certainly possible with the resume they're putting together.
Yep. They have talent. I agree.
All right, let's kick off the outline here. Creighton at Texas. Big headliner. Matt, you mentioned this is a cross-conference showdown. Blue Jays heading down to Texas. This is a team coming off the Maui trip. That's always a little bit difficult. Coming back from the island, they've had some time off, but still could be rather difficult. I think only Cincinnati has covered teams coming back from the island. They were able to blow out NJIT. Man, I've got other concerns, more about ball handling here. I'll get into some numbers in a bit, but are you leaning towards the home team just on principle here?
Yeah, I am. And the numbers come down a half point. I think it opened at 7. It's at 6.5 pretty much everywhere right now. If it got down to 6, I'd be tempted to ride with the hook'em horns, Mr. McKeon. We talked about on our podcast last night. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner could have an edge up front if Creighton can get him the ball. And I think that's where they fail. The pressure that Texas could put on you on the perimeter, how hard it is just to bring the ball across half court, to operate in your offense, to make entry passes. That's what all the great defenses do. Iowa State does it. There's a number of other elite teams that do that. That's the key tonight. If Creighton's ball handlers can make Texas defenders pay and maybe get some straight line drives, get it into Kalk inside where I think he's got an edge over Disu, that's where Creighton has success. But I just don't see it happening. I think Texas has this real juice flowing right now, and I'm probably going to ride it if it keeps falling.
Yeah, still a relatively young Creighton team's first road test. They were awesome in Maui, though. They passed my eye test. I was impressed with them. I'm buying them long term. But Texas's home court seems legit. That new building looks wonderful. The environment for the Gonzaga game was awesome. And this is also the best defense Creighton will see or has seen all year, with apologies to Texas Tech. They played Texas Tech, right? I'm not making that one up. I believe they did.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
The key Texas here, their numbers, the key numbers here, they're 4th in the country in 2-point field goal percentage allowed. Creighton's 12th in field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage on offense. Texas can match up with what Creighton has been so successful doing all year, and that's what Matt kind of said, getting the ball to Kalkbrenner, getting it inside, getting it in the paint. And Texas's offense, Jim, looks way better than it has in the past.
Yep.
The Jays do have a legit rim protector, and they are good on the defensive glass. And Texas isn't shooting it great, but their offense looks good overall. Those guards have been playing well. The spread seems on target to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Matt where if it dipped a little lower, I'd be interested in Texas. I'm giving a lot for home here. We saw the environment against Gonzaga. But as you said, Gonzaga doesn't really have a rim protector, and Texas was able to score inside. Creighton's got a big time rim protector. I want to talk about Creighton's ball handling real quick because their turnover rate's 14th in the country. It looks incredible, pristine. This team never turns the ball over, but their schedule has been really soft in terms of teams that pressure. They had Arkansas in there, which they turned the ball over 17 times. They had Texas Tech, where they turned it over, I think, 13 times in the first half before completely cleaning it up in the second half. But their other opponents, defensive turnover percentage ranking, 324, 278th, 252nd, 301st, and Arizona's 347. It's like they weren't playing teams that pressure the way that I think Texas is going to. And when they did play teams like that, they showed some vulnerability. First road game, I think Creighton might crack a little bit here with their ball handling. I definitely lean towards the Horns, up over 6. I don't want to lay it, but that's just kind of my gut sensation with this game. All right, coming up next, we've got Seton Hall headed to Kansas. Another Big East, Big 12 battle. High Kansas has taken money, bet up from 7.5 all the way to 10. I was a little part of that because I don't know what Seton Hall's doing offensively, and they've got injury issues. You sent me some Shaheen Holloway quotes where he doesn't know who's going to play up until game time most of the time. I know Kansas has injuries too, but how do you see this one?
Yeah, KU's banged up. McCullough is doubtful. He is pretty important on both ends for this team, and Pettiford probably is out as well. Bench guard piece. I think Yesufu's just as good there. But, Jim, you kind of mentioned it. I don't trust Seton Hall's locker room at all right now. It sounds like a weird situation. Shaheen Holloway has been frustrated with guys who are supposed to play, and they tell him they're injured before the game starts. I was looking to back Seton Hall in this game. I thought I would get a good number on him. A 10 is a great number, but man, Matt, with those quotes, you have to stay far away, in my opinion. Can't trust them at the Fog. 10 is way too high, but I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I didn't touch it. I think it opened 8. Maybe if you got on the opener, I would have endorsed Kansas, but similar narrative to the Texas game we just broke down, right? I'm trying to respect home court, and Seton Hall has a lot of issues you guys discussed. So yeah, the problem is that KU's not prior year KU. They just don't have that like offensive 16-2 and 2.5 minute run gear that I think they used to have. It's a balanced team, but it's a team that's young and a team that's kind of banged up right now, relying pretty heavily on Wilson and Mr. Dick to score points in bunches there. So yeah, not a team looking to back Mr. Dick, Mr. Cox, Mr. Dick. We're cousins.
What they are doing, Matt, is they're defending like crazy. And
yeah, they are.
You're giving me Kansas at home against the Seton Hall team that can't score really and has no general plan offensively in the half court. Just kind of a lot of ISO stuff. I kind of like Kansas here. Like I said, I took them at -7.5. One of the openers, and got a pretty good number. Would not recommend laying 10. That's a lot. But I just think they're further along. Seton Hall, God, that offense. I know they had the upset win over Memphis, but that was luck. They had some really, really beneficial breaks go their way down the stretch. Lost to Siena on the neutral floor. Like, I don't know. I'm not as sold on the Seton Hall team as I thought I was going to be coming into the year. They should be even better defensively than they are. Potentially an under, but I think it's going to be a lot of time.
Yeah, under. You're right. That might be the play.
I think it'll be inefficient, but there might be a lot of possessions. All right. There's going to be a lot of possessions in the mountains, though. Matt, we're going to talk about our Utes here. They are hosting Arizona. I loved seeing somebody in the chat. I missed who. I'm sorry, but they said Utah could be a pace taker here against Arizona. Pretty much everybody has to be, Matthew. Arizona just gets the ball. They go, whether it's a make or a miss. They want to play in transition. Are you worried about that at elevation at all?
No, I mean, Zona ran them out last year, correct? I was trying to find the results from last season.
97-77 last year.
Yeah, and that's sort of the concern with Utah, but I did take Utah here because I am a subscriber and basically lifelong beholder to the Craig Smith fan club. So yeah, I did take 7.5 or 7, I think. This year's team matches up better, and Utah's been quietly solid the last 4 games. They were hurt to start the year. I think Marco Anthony back is absolutely enormous for this team. You look at their top 7 guys, it's pretty legit. They actually have size up front this season. Obviously, Zona's size is a little more physical and stronger, more brute force up there, but I think they can withstand to some degree the interior onslaught that Zone has been putting on teams so far. I just think it's going to be a closer game than people think in elevation. First conference game of the year. I think that maybe sneaks up on Zona, and we have the Maui coming off the island factor, Kai. So go Utes.
Yeah, who knows if that's really a factor. I'd love to get some hard.
It could be BS. I'm gonna cling to it though. I'll cling to it anecdotally.
Well, Arizona looks like a top 5 team. They ran through Maui, and they were up big on Creighton before that game turned close at the end. Utah is definitely a tough place to play. I think everyone's pretty well aware of that. But hey, Sam Houston beat them here. The Utes are 0-2 against top 100 teams. This is the best team they've played by far. They do have a good interior defense, Matt. You're right. That's huge against an Arizona team that's kind of looking to go inside and penetrate. But Arizona can also shoot. They have a ton of shooting. And I don't think Utah can keep up with them in the run. I think Arizona can get in transition. Like Jim said, they're probably a pace taker because who isn't against Arizona? And heck, Utah's been playing pretty fast offensively too. I would think Craig Smith would want to slow this game down, try to make it a crawl. But it's tough to do against Arizona. I'm not fading the Cats here. I also did not take them as well, Jim.
Yeah, last year Utah was not a fast team, and this game was 84 possessions. The game at Utah between Arizona and Utah, like Arizona totally sped them up. I'm concerned that could happen here. So while I'm with Nat on my gut lean home dog Utah team that I'm pretty high on this year, I wasn't able to pull the trigger on this one. I ended up sitting it out. Hope my Utes get the W, but Arizona, boy, they looked like a juggernaut on Maui. All right, next one up, also in the Pac-12 here. Got another road favorite, UCLA, Kai. Been solid, but they went 0-2 in that event in Vegas. Now they go to Stanford, a team that I know you have seen in person and we're not thrilled by. Do we think that the Bruins get a big road W to start league play?
They quietly need this game. They have 0 quality wins so far, and the Pac-12 is pretty down, as we're well aware. I think they get it done here. There's not much home mat for Stanford. UCLA's look solid. Stanford hasn't been good. Their offense is terrible. It gets stuck in the mud. Maybe they can muck this game up, make it a little physical. I just don't see UCLA getting that bothered by it. Now, Jalen Clark, check his status. He has been very good for the Bruins this year. Maybe he means a little bit of something in this game, but they still have plenty of talent. The line might be a touch high at 6.5, but I'm still sort of leaning towards UCLA.
Tough to figure out UCLA. Like, I'm not going to, put a black mark on their resume because of the MTE in Vegas. But I mean, outside of that, they've just looked really good against not great teams. So it's sort of a team I don't feel super confident laying the points. But this is a spot I had UCLA circled. I just don't think Stanford's home court is worth much. It's kind of a sterile place to play. I think UCLA, inspired or I guess motivated by the first conference game, looking to maybe prove that they actually are up to playing against top tier competition. I think there's some qualitative juju in the favor of the Bruins, Jim. And this Stanford team, man, I don't know. Just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, not a huge fan. I think Jalen Clark was back at practice for UCLA. He's rather important as a defender. You can throw him at Michael Jones or Spencer Jones or any other Jones that Stanford decides to produce, maybe even Harrison Ingram. I would lean towards UCLA too, but the number doesn't feel right. This would be like, if I bet it, it would just be like, I'm not looking at my number. I'm just UCLA over Stanford. I'll take it, but not betting it. All right, let's get to our first chat mob section. Before we do though, again, if you're watching on the Field of 68 regular channel, make sure you check out the Best Bets channel where we're trying to see if we can push a little more to that. This is the Best Bet show. It's every day. Feel free to check us out. All right, let's go to chat mob. This is our specialty. Any games, Kai? What do you got for us?
Durko asks about Wright State and Robert Morris going to Jim. Spread's pretty high for a conference game.
Yeah, but I kind of buy Wright State, and they have the offensive firepower to blow teams out. I'm not going to take them because conference opener, a lot of points for a dog. Perhaps Robert Morris is a lot more feisty than I would anticipate, but I like the Raiders this year. They've had a couple solid wins. Maybe the Louisville win doesn't look as good anymore, but Wright State would be my gut sense there.
Need intel on Enoch Cheeks for Robert Morris, key player.
Yeah, been out a few games.
Yeah, a few games. Thank you.
Matthew, let's stay in the horizon here. Cleveland State and Oakland. Oakland Grizzlies, we usually like to bet on this team. They've been poor this year. What do you think about this one?
I bet them again today, but I'm sure it's a lose. I've already graded it in our spreadsheet, Kai, but the spread was too high. It just comes down to Jalen Moore, Lauren Bowman, and Rocket Watts, the 3 best players on that team, very clearly all injured to certain degrees. Greg Campy basically said they're playing hurt because they all want to play. So he's like, yeah, they want to play. I'm going to let them play. I don't have, what else am I not going to stop them from playing? But they've not been good. So, Jim, I'm hoping a little bit of rest, recovery, conference game to start. Maybe get more of a true effort from the Grizz.
Yeah, maybe hopefully some defensive regression for Oakland too. Opponents shooting 44% from three. Cleveland State, I don't love as a favorite. So
they can't shoot.
Oakland.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Jim, Valpo and Belmont, this spread has come down from 11 and a half down to 9 now. Valpo finally looked actually good against James Madison. What do you think?
I think that was more James Madison hangover game after the South Dakota State win. I prefer Belmont. They just got Keyshawn Davidson, the transfer from Tennessee Tech, back on the floor. I've been really impressed with their freshmen. Maybe there's some like Valpo, all right, it's conference play. Let's reset. We're more talented than what we've been showing. But I just like Belmont. And we kind of like the teams that change leagues in their early conference games because the opponent is unfamiliar with them. So I would lean towards Belmont.
That's definitely true. Matthew, you get Pacific and UC Davis. This game was up over 8 points. It's now 6.5. Pacific's looked terrible since, ironically, their head coach is back on the sidelines.
I know. That's what's weird. It's like, so I watched the 2 games which he was out, and like the assistant, I forget who it was like the most fiery dude ever. The players were all playing really hard. Haven't watched him since. Results certainly haven't been that good. The fan forums seem to think they've been fine. Just a couple of bad stretches, late execution. They think they could be a lot, 5-2, 7-2-5. I don't know. Could be all hearsay. I like Pacific, kind of short and sweet. I just think they're much closer to a pick with this team, not 7 or 8 points worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't go pick, but definitely not 6 or 7 points worse.
They're not that much worse than UC Davis. They're not.
Davis blows leads constantly.
Backdoor should be wide open. It should be wide open, baby. Ivy Curry, just jumpers.
Jim, you get an extra game. Wofford and Presbyterian. I saw someone in the chat like the over in this one as well, but 12.5 point spread here.
Man, that makes me nervous. I kind of like the under. I think both teams are half court centric. Maybe they can't defend each other, but Presbyterian got Winston Hill back a couple games back. He's been playing fairly well, hopefully ramping up his minutes more as we go. So I lean towards the dog in the under. I think Presbyterian tries to turn it into a slog, but man, I don't have that with a lot of conviction. So if you're on the over, go for it.
Let's go one more before we get back to the rundown here. Matthew, Detroit Mercy on the road, Purdue Fort Wayne, another Horizon Conference game here. Spread's 4.5.
I took Mercy in the Fighting Antoine Davis's. Just think the number's a little too big. It should be close to a pick. I think Detroit's a little bit undervalued right now. The problem is that their home road splits are so stark. So I'm worried I overlook that by betting them on the road here. I think this was the case last year and the year before. They've just been much, much better at home.
Yeah, why don't they play defense? I don't get it.
A lot of points. Both teams are going to score a lot of points, I think.
Yeah, the over is probably a pretty good bet too. Yeah.
That's a simple, seems very too simplistic, but I don't know.
Totals, that's what wins, baby. Think
work.
simple.
Yeah.
Think small, win big for totals. I agree.
All right, back to the outline, Kai?
Back to the outline, Jim.
Let's do it. I'm going to go right back to you. Oklahoma State is headed to UConn. You saw these Huskies just dominate in Portland. Complete smashing of opponents out there. Now, if you dig into a little bit, they did get shorthanded Oregon. An impressive effort, admittedly, against Alabama. But then Iowa State coming off a huge emotional win against North Carolina. Maybe there wasn't quite the same gusto. They got them in foul trouble big time. This UConn team just has so much physicality and depth. Do you really think Oklahoma State can keep it within, 8.5 is where it's at now at BetRivers?
This game touched 10, and I nearly stepped in on Oklahoma State.
Yep,
I thought that was a bit ridiculous. Now, UConn does look like a top 5 team. This team is legitimate. I put a future on them, even though Dan Hurley can't really win in the tournament. Do we see a Portland hangover here? Purdue couldn't cover against Florida State, even though they outplayed them pretty much in every single way. Oklahoma State's not a bad team. They really need this win if they want to keep their at-large hopes alive heading into conference play where they'll get plenty of chances. But nobody can match UConn in size, Matt, in the country. But Oklahoma State's interior is pretty good. They have a number of shot blockers. I worry about Oklahoma State on the perimeter, though, offensively. UConn's perimeter is very long. But maybe Oklahoma State can force turnovers here. Iowa State turned the Huskies over 19 times. Perhaps that's Oklahoma State's path. If it was still 10, I'd be recommending Oklahoma State. At 8.5, with how high possession this game could get, I don't really trust Oklahoma State here.
Yeah, I'm with you. 10, I think it's worth looking at the pokes, but I'm not in a hurry to fade UConn at 8.5. UConn and Purdue, Jim, 2 teams I'm tagging like we'll find out like how real the MTE stuff was. Like, I think we both are believers in both teams, but to what degree? Like top 3, top 5 good, or more like fringe top 10 good? And I think you'll see the prices for both teams inflated the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll see if they can cover them.
Yeah, I'm looking at this number. UConn on a neutral was 6.5 over Iowa State. I think it got bet down a little bit. Now at home, they're 8.5 against Oklahoma State. I don't think Oklahoma State's a whole lot better than Iowa State this year, unfortunately. So I kind of lean towards UConn. And Matt, you talked about the home value in these conference challenges. This is the Big East, Big 12 again. I think Oklahoma State's really going to struggle to score against UConn. The size, the physicality that they bring. So I'm leaning towards UConn now. The numbers come down, but again, have not bet that one. All right, back to the Pac-12. We went away. We're coming right back to it. Back to altitude. Colorado hosting Arizona State. Now, we outlined the ridiculous Marcus Bagley saga on our podcast yesterday. We don't need to go into too much detail today. He's not playing because of some weird rifts with Bobby Hurley. Do you think that's enough to give Colorado the edge here as a home team in the mountains?
No, I don't. I didn't take Arizona State. I just thought the line was a little too short, but I do like this Arizona State version, whatever it is right now without Bagley. It's funny, like a year and a half ago, we're like, oh, Bagley's worth 5 points. You can't bet this team without Bagley, and they were atrocious. Now they've kind of retooled the entire identity of this team around defense and physicality, which has been lacking severely the entire Hurley regime there. And it kind of reading between the tea leaves sounds like Bagley wasn't all the way committed on the defensive end. And I think the players in both Hurley are just completely fine with him not being there. So all that is to say, he's not a part of the handicap. I've kind of thrown him out, and I don't trust the Colorado team at all, Kai. I think they're incredibly volatile. So, this is a great live betting game. I'll definitely say that. I think if you get one team down 10, down 15, you'll see some NBA type swings.
Yeah, like Utah, right? Colorado, tough place to play. We might be looking to fade these Arizona teams in the next game, perhaps a little mountain road trip. But yeah, weird stuff going on with Bagley. Perhaps it's actually helped Arizona State to know he's just not going to play. I mean, he's gonna transfer at this point with all the Twitter stuff he's been doing. Colorado's difficult to figure out, man. Apparently they can play with anybody, and apparently they can lose to anybody. So I can't say I feel good about backing them. I can't say I feel good about fading them. It's only their third home game of the year. I think they do give a pretty good effort here in the opener. Arizona State is not a great road team. Their only road game this year was a loss to Texas Southern. The spread just feels about right at 4.5. So I'm staying clear away, Jim.
Kai, that was one of my bigger points. Like their poor road effort at Texas Southern. Now they have to go to altitude, tough place. That is kind of getting me skeptical of Arizona State. And no one's made threes against Arizona State. I know they have defended better this year, but they're not some like crazy long monster closeout team. And they're surrendering 22% a make rate from downtown in 7 games. I don't buy that. I think that starts to maybe regress a little bit. You said Colorado's up and down. They're better when they're locked in, motivated, and this is their conference opener at home. So I think you should get the better version of Colorado today. I lean towards the Buffs. Didn't end up betting it because of the number. Also, think it's fairly spot on. Think that a lot of these Pac-12 games were aligned fairly well, but that would be where I'd go there. All right, last one in the Pac-12, Washington State at Oregon here. We've got the Ducks, Kai, super banged up. Sounds like they're still going to be without Bartholomew, still no Cousinard. A lot of the depth players still probably out as well. Maybe only like 6 or 7 scholarship guys have to play some walk-ons in the backcourt. Does that give the edge to the Cougs on the road?
Yeah. Both teams kind of need a win here. Oregon is getting healthy. Rigby is back in the backcourt. Brennan Rigby making his debut. Altman talks about him like he's incredibly important. So
I know. Ton of love for him.
A favor for them. But Dante's still questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play. TBD. If he's out, it's definitely Wazoo for me. But even with him in there, I think Wazoo can compete. I don't think Rigby moves the needle a ton. I'm kind of slightly disagree with Altman there. I think Wazoo can compete on the glass. They can match size up front, or at least get close, Matt, which a lot of teams cannot against Oregon. Oregon's the biggest team in the country. And Smith's a great coach. His team can also shoot. Oregon's allowing a ton of free-point attempts this season. They're not defending the line very well, and that has a lot to do with their backcourt being kind of gutted right now. It's right up Washington State's alley, this matchup. It's my best bet as well. And I believe they are +4 right now. It's come down, unfortunately. Yeah. +4 best bet on Washington State, I will take.
Love it. Yeah, I'll just give you Washington State side of the coin. I'm all over Washington State here. I think if Dante plays, I still like it. If he's out, it's like I'll probably add more, even at the worst number. I just think they should be favored with how much in shambles this Oregon thing feels right now. I mean, Altman was pretty explicit about how ominous it seems. Washington State got healthier. Rodman's going to be back for his third game. They get Rosario back. I know he hasn't really done much, but he's an out of the body for a team that needs bodies. They play well with depth. And I think their size will just completely negate Oregon's only avenue to have success on either end. And without Dante, I mean, it could be a bloodbath up front. The Pit doesn't have the same home court juice when this team's not rolling. So, yeah, check. Wazoo all the way.
I wouldn't call it bloodbath. Ware's pretty big. he's pretty.
Yeah, Ware's big. Sorry, you're right. Ware's big boy. Big
we
boy.
don't know if
he's big boy.
Brittle Biddle is also questionable. So we'll see if he's out there. Oregon with this short-handed team did beat Villanova, but I think that is Villanova indictment more than anything. That team is really, really struggling. My one hesitancy on Washington State, man, is your boy Justin Powell continues to have terrible splits when he plays better competition. It's become a career-long thing that is starting to make me wonder if he actually is that level, that tier. If he's played like up to 20 games now against power conference competition, and it hasn't been good. The numbers are bad. So we'll see if he can handle it. Oregon being shorthanded in the backcourt and maybe having to guard him with Gabe Reichel, a walk-on, could be huge for Powell. But I like Washington State. I'm on the same page as these guys. That's just my one hesitation. All right, last one on the outline, a mid-major battle that apparently Taylor Bergfeld in the chat is going to be covering tonight. So we gotta have some very intimate thoughts here. Youngstown State headed to Northern Kentucky. Now we've got injury questions here for the Norse. Sam Vincent's status pretty big. So Taylor, if you got a scoop on that, you're gonna be in the arena. Let us know.
Please DM us.
But the Penguins, a road favorite here to start off league play. Do they get a road victory to start off the horizon? Matt.
Oh, to me, sorry. I was just reading the chat. Like, yeah, go Norse, baby. I'm kind of with them. I think the Norse is my lean. I didn't bet it just because I respect how good Youngstown's been this season, and that roster is very good, very deep. But the Norse cannot be backed until you know the situation of Sam Vincent and Xavier Rhodes. I think we think Rhodes is going to play, but Vincent is more unlikely. Effectively, those are their two
Rhodes
primary
illness, and Vincent's like actual injury that they've been vague about.
Right, and those are like their two primary ball handlers, creators. Now Marcus Warwick went for 45 last game without those two. Carried them to a narrow win in overtime against Tennessee Tech. Kind of shows you, it kind of shows you how they need those other two complementary creators to just take the pressure off Warwick. Otherwise, it's going to be like, all right, Warwick, it's you or no one else is going to get buckets for us. So if both are back, I like the Norse. If one's back, I'm staying away. If they're both out, I'd even lean Youngstown. I think they're that important.
I agree. Wink, wink, Taylor in the chat. If you're going to back Northern Kentucky, you have to know about Rhodes and Vincent. They're two starters. They have not looked good without them in the lineup. I mean, Tennessee Tech, double overtime. They won by 8. It was a close game the entire way. Now, Tennessee Tech's been pretty solid this year. I'll give them a little bit of credit. And YSU has been great. They're decent against zones as well, which is key. NKU is going to throw a zone at them. Youngstown has the shooters to kind of combat that. It's not the preferred method of scoring, but they can shoot, and they can definitely rebound the ball. And that's, of course, any zone's kryptonite. That's been NKU's kryptonite this year. If those guards are out, I'm on Youngstown. If they're in, I'm probably leaning Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, like I think they're that important where you could be on either side pending their status. Youngstown lost by 1 and 14 to Northern Kentucky last year. They do have some new pieces. Hopefully they're familiar enough with the weird amoeba zone that NKU throws out there. That's always the key against them. But I'm with Kai. It comes down to the status of Vincent and Rhodes. I strongly think Rhodes is going to play. It sounds like it, but Vincent is a big, big swing. So we'll see what we can find out there. All right, that's it. Let's go to Chat Mob Part 2. Again, if you're watching on the Field of 68's usual channel, check out the Best Bets YouTube channel. Subscribe to that one as well. We're live 5 to 6 times a week on there. Same time, usually 12 p.m. Central and then 10:15 a.m. Central on the weekends. Kai, what do we got for questions?
Rick, among others, have asked about Denver and Houston Christian. And boy, this spread hit 7. And I was like, guys, how good is Denver? No chance this spread should be this high. It's down to 5.5, Jim. A little more reasonable, in my opinion. Do you have a side in this one?
I was surprised it went up that high with Tevin Smith questionable. Denver's best player had a knee injury at their NTE, missed a game. They have not released how serious it is, if he's done for the year or if it's a slight sprain and he could be back. But man, it's hard to imagine that number ballooning like it did if he's not in there. I would lean towards Houston Christian, but they also have been pretty abysmal this year. Their defense is a sieve. Like, you get a layup immediately against them. So I'm a little bit skeptical.
Matthew, Murray State, Illinois State, Valley opener for both teams, Valley opener ever for Murray.
Yep.
Illinois State's been terrible this year, but this spread's pretty big. Part of me thinks it's bounce back time for the Redbirds.
I kind of agree with that. I didn't take it because they've shown me no evidence to believe. Like, I need to at least see like 10 minutes of basketball where it's like, okay, if that team shows up for 30 times, that's probably good enough to cover. But I haven't even seen that. Like, they just kind of rolled over against Rhode Island, who's kind of a shell of themselves. That was putrid. And Murray State's look really good. Like, I think we're still jaw on floor after their MTE performance. But you're right. The first conference game angle kind of made me stay away. So nothing there for me.
Illinois State 0-7 against the spread this year, -7 cover margin. They have been as bad as you can be.
Yep. Yeah, don't catch the falling knife. Don't try to time the upswing. Just keep fading or keep betting and then go from there. That's going to be my policy this year, guys. Yep. Texas State, Jim, 12-point favorite against Lamar. Speaking of teams that don't look very good, Texas State.
I kind of like Texas State here. Maybe that's gross, laying a bunch of points on the road, but I think they usually smash lesser competition. That's kind of been their style. It's how they've won Sun Belt. They are terrible if they have to play power conference teams. They don't really elevate well unless that power conference team is Oregon State, but or Cal. But I would lean towards the Bobcats here. Bobcats, is that right? Texas State?
Bobcats. Yeah, Bobcats. Right. Lamar's terrible too. They're bad.
They're really bad. Yeah.
I'll take this one, Milwaukee and Green Bay. I'll tell you what, Milwaukee's looking a lot better. And we love Bart Lundy, the coach coming over from Queens, who's also doing pretty well this year. It seems like he finally figured it out in their little MTE they had. They hosted. Green Bay's not a lot of travel. It's up to 7.5. Can't recommend now, but I did like them at a lower number, around 6 or so.
That's high.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a high number, but I was like, the number's too high. Who cares? Milwaukee's good now. Green Bay's been absolutely atrocious. They're without Blake, the only guy who looked somewhat competent the last game. So if he's not playing, like, I don't know. What's their hope of scoring? None.
Matt, thoughts about Utah Tech going to Utah State, the Spectrum Center, baby?
Yeah, it's a big number, but Utah State makes big numbers look small pretty quickly. I know the travel's not as crazy as a lot of the teams that have to go there, which I think wears teams out quickly. And, Utah Tech plays in some altitude. That does help. They're well coached, but no action here for me.
I will say Utah Tech is like south end of the state, close to Vegas. So it's
a pretty good stretch. It's not like it's a road. Yeah.
Big state. Yeah. Jim, Washington and Oregon State from Andrew here. The Beavers are +5 home dog coming home from Portland. What do you think?
Pac-12 team that did not make the outline here. I lean towards the Huskies, but man, it's not a team I want to trust as a road favorite. And Tinkle does seem like he's got his bag of tricks this year. The young pieces on that roster have been pretty solid. Pope in particular, gave a shout out to him on our real podcast. So I would lean Washington, but I don't feel good about it and definitely will not recommend it to folks.
We talked about the Valpo Belmont, Mr. Metric Panda. Fairfield Manhattan, is that a game that's on today? It is, Matt.
Yes, it is.
Fairfield's -2 at Manhattan. Manhattan is kind of acquitted itself a little bit with the coaching situation. What do you think?
I agree. People overreact to the Manhattan thing. Like, the roster is fine. It's not terrible. Not enough guys stayed. They got Samir Stewart, my boy, back, Kai, as you astutely found in the box score. Yeah. So, and they like the coach. Apparently, the coach has been an assistant. It's not like it's a major stylistic. Like, still a competent team. And I think Fairfield's very good. So I would lean the Jaspers. I don't know why I haven't played this actually.
I think Fairfield's kind of good. I thought they were good. Then they played bad. Then they doused Towson. I was like, oh, they are good. So
Matt likes Marist. Matt does not like Fairfield. That's my, I have like a notepad on my screen because I always confuse those two.
I dislike Fairfield every single year, and I'm trying to come around on this team. Okay, that does it for Chat Mob Round 2. Let's go best bets. I think Matt's leading us off here.
Yep, Matthew, hit us.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I forgot my best bet because I was going to go Washington State, but Kai jacked it from me.
I knew you wanted.
So what is my best bet?
Mount St. Mary's is your best bet.
That's right, Mount St. Mary's. Thank you, Kai.
Look, the newest addition, folks,
to the MAAC. How excited I am to share with you. No, this is actually a really good bet, even though I forgot about it. I have so many good bets today. It's hard to keep track of them all. But yeah, the Mount in their first conference game going on a, I don't know, semi-short, not that short road trip to the Northeast corridor there. I just think they've been very impressive so far. Looked really good, acquitted themselves on the West Coast trip. I know they're going to be without likely one of their better guards today, but I think they dominate St. Peter's up front. They still kind of have like the that bigger DNA that they've had the last couple of years. And St. Peter's has no size, like absolutely no size this year. It's like all guards under Bashir Mason. Big matchup edge for Mount St. Mary's. I think the better team. So give me the Mount. +3, I think is the current number.
I'm looking up. It is 230 miles away from St. Peter's. Huh. That's a little farther than I thought.
Yeah, it's in like Maryland. Yeah, I should have known that. Okay. It's not that far though. Whatever.
Yeah.
And it's Emmitsburg, Matthew. Emmitsburg.
Yeah.
Emmitsburg.
Right. Kai, what about your best bet?
Best bet, again, is Wazoo +4. That's Washington State, the Cougars. They are located in Pullman, Washington. Jim, your turn.
I'm going with an over, and I know that will probably surprise everybody. Wow, how did Harry know that? I guess it's probably on the screen. That must be what it is. But yeah, Cornell and Delaware, the over 155, big number. But Delaware has run when they play teams that run, and Cornell loves to run. They get up and down with Mr. Earl at the headline or at the on the
helm. At the helm?
Yeah. Wow, I just got lost in a total brain fart there.
Helm?
But
yeah,
I think both teams will play fast. I think both teams can score. Jair Davis should have an absolute heyday inside against Cornell's interior defense. So I've been trying to get out of the fight. The unders weren't doing great. The efficiency has spiked around the sport the last couple of days. So I'm going with an over here to try to change things up. And it is a high total, but I like it. All right. That is it. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. We'll be back one more time tomorrow. Not a deep slate tomorrow, but there are some big headliners. We got Gonzaga Baylor from a neutral floor tomorrow. We'll be talking about that one. Same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central. And one last plug, if you're watching on the Field of 68's main YouTube channel, hop over to the Best Bets channel, get in there, get in the chat. That's where we pull all our questions from. So if you have a game you're curious about, that will be coming from the Best Bets live chat. But until tomorrow, good luck tonight. Enjoy the basketball.